As I said before, the 1980s were a good time for single lens cameras, film cameras. All the manufacturers had a range of models, from entry models to advanced models, and designs were changing. I'm going to talk about the Nikon F301. In a previous video I've talked about the Nikon FG, which came in the early to mid 80s, and it was a good quality entry camera. It had manual, automatic and a program mode on. It was cheaper than the previous Nikons. It did find a bit of a niche, a new market, and by 1985 it had been on the market I think about 3 years and was just beginning to show its age a bit, and Nikon launched the 301. And it's at that stage where automation is beginning to creep in more and more. So what we have on this camera, which was completely new, we have no wind-on lever, because it is actually and there's a film in here which I had almost forgotten about. It is automatic wind on, and we have a nice little circle at the back here that we can see move when it's winding on. Although it's winding on automatically, when we get to the end of the film we still have to wind the film back. It's at the time when automatic focusing cameras are just about to come in, and Nikon could have made this autofocus, but they didn't. It's actually manual focus. The camera that came after this and was launched a year later, but was being manufactured at the same time, was something called the F301, which I will talk about later in another video, but that has got automatic focusing. This hasn't. I've put on here the E lens. I think the E series lenses were being shipped with these, although you could have got a zoom lens which might have been able to be used on the following cameras. Right, loading of this is just easy. You just load the film and put it so that the leader is just beginning to edge in, close it. Now, as I said, another new feature on here is the DS coding. So you could still set your ASO manually, or you could find the DS, and there you've set it for DS coding. Okay. A little word of warning about this camera. Some people have said to me, oh, I can never find one that works. Well, the shutter doesn't actually work until you put a film in the camera. So you've got to put in a film before it starts. Another a good and bad thing I think is these cameras take either AAA batteries, or you can get a converter of a bigger bottom and they will then take 4 AA batteries. So, but the AAA batteries fit into a small holder like this. So if you're buying one of these cameras, check that it's got one of these in, or check that it's got the AA converter, because without it you won't be able to use it. So the fact it takes AA batteries I think is really useful, because those bigger 1, 2, 3 batteries are expensive, and cameras that take AA or AAA batteries I always think are really useful. Right, so to use, we've got either our manual shutter speeds. We go from 1 second to up to 2,000ths of a second, so that's pretty fast. We then have aperture priority, so we put it on green, you select the aperture, and on the right hand of the screen we've got little red figures, and we see the corresponding shutter speed to the aperture we've set. So in this room at the moment, which is quite dark, if I put it on F2, it's saying 1/8 of a second. Then we've got a program mode. So if we put it to program and down to F22, the smallest f-stop, that will select a program for us, whatever it thinks will be correctly exposed. And we've got a high program mode here for when we want long lenses, telephoto lenses. It will then try to give us the highest shutter speed that it can. So we have two type of program modes here. We also have the aperture adjustment here, plus and minus. There's not a lot more to be said about this camera. One slight criticism was where the tripod it's a bit far out. I was pleasantly surprised using this. It's ergonomically nice. It has a slightly traditional look, but at the same time it's going towards a more modern look. In some ways I prefer it to the F301 that I will talk about in another video. This is definitely a transitional camera between what was being built in the 70s to what was coming in the future. It also has a sound on and off, so you can hear it beep if you want to. As I said before, winding back you do manually, but I quite like the fact you've got a button here at the top and not on the bottom. I also have a remote here and a hot shoe. So said, using it, pleasure to use. I would have liked a little bit more information in the viewfinder, but it's absolutely fine. So the prices of these seem to be moderately reasonable. The problem is trying to find a lens for one, because an awful lot of people have sold these without lenses, and it's useless without a lens. I think because of the F mount still being able to be used on the digital Canons, that is why lenses for Nikon are always quite short after. So you do need and the whole thing with Nikon is the lenses are various, so there's some issues there. But 301, I think, a nice camera to use. Good luck.